Since this rejected letter, I've just learned so much. If only I could send something back. Do it.
Okay.
Look at the file attached to this video to make sense of the story that I'll be using as an example. I'm saving the best for last, my young, naive self. Listen and learn. Tip number 1. Start your protagonist with a goal. This is a personal pet peeve of mine. I hate it when the character is the least ambitious person and is pushed around by events, until the middle when they become active. While becoming active at the midpoint is fine, you know what readers really like? An underdog seeking something, immediately generating respect and likability, as the reader wants to see your protagonist reach their goal. An example: if your story started with an uneducated person trying to get enrolled in the top level university of the region, and he doesn't know better because, he's uneducated, and they are rejected. The rest of the story is about him proving himself. Right there's a compelling story idea for an active character. The thing is, you don't need them to pursue their goal until later, but they must have a goal. Bayram, again, check your future story here, has a small and unambitious goal that doesn't get reached in the storyline and is only hinted at. The more ambitious the goal, the more likely the reader will want to see them accomplish it. Again, the likable underdog technique fits perfectly. People don't like characters who are just so, well, there's passive, then there's passive. For a professional example, Calcia from Mistborn, The Final Empire. He's got the seemingly impossible goal to kill a god. The moment Calcia entered the page, I was hooked. This man would do anything to take down the god that had wronged him. Tip 2. 3 things to check in intro action. Setting, plot, but most importantly, characters. The reader will get attached to everybody on the first page, which means don't put characters in there without a reason or meaning. Each side character must have a reason to perhaps generate sympathy so that you can brutally kill them off. I know how much you like it, my past self. In this story I created, Bayron and Kieran are in there immediately. But Kieran doesn't have that much of an impact on the storyline. She should have had a more direct impact on the story. Plot. If you're writing a novel, the time before the initiating incident must be able to function as a microcosm in itself. If you take the entire story away, it should be able to stand by itself. But if you're writing a short story, just go in, guns blazing. For the most famous example, Indiana Jones. The beginning was basically a summarization of the entire movie. People knew what they were getting into, and that is even more important for a book, since the reader will check the first few pages in a novel or the first few words in a short story, and you want them to know what is in your book, but not exactly what's in your book. When it comes to a novel, the reader invests even more time in it. Now on to the next. Setting. This is vital for fantasy and sci-fi writers. What is so special, so out of the ordinary, so crazy about your world? Stick around to the end to see how to generate crazy. But your unique traits must be shown as close to the beginning as possible. For a bad example, that story there. I had something very unique, but I didn't showcase it until long after the first few words. But onto something a bit more lighter. A professional example. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Actually, all of his books. But this one, we are taken right into the defining moment in this world's history. In fact, a prologue exists to display what is so special about your world. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Tolkien did go a bit overboard on that. Wheel of Time, etc. Tip 3. Begin with meaning. My past self, don't begin a story with meaningless action. In order for it to have meaning, it must be meaningful to your characters. Your characters must care about the action or your readers never will. Let's say a book starts with a fireman rescuing a bunch of people. If it is just a random bunch of people, but there's no backstory of trauma to trigger, it won't be as interesting if our fireman had parents in the fire. That ratchets the tension right up. What if he had to choose between saving his parents and the other random people? He thinks himself out of the situation and saves the day, but the thought hangs over him. Maybe next time, he won't be so lucky. Now, you can take my word for it, but take a professional example. Mistborn, The Final Empire. I really enjoyed this beginning, and you will too once you read it, my past self. Spoiler alert for the prologue. A young Scar, basically a slave girl, has been taken off the fields to be hurt. And when Calcia hears of this, he goes ballistic. Not because he's bland and angry just because it's wrong, but because her family wouldn't do anything. Nobody wants to help. Calcia also has PTSD and in the end kills everybody who sought to hurt her. Now that is what I'm talking about. The action means everything to Calcia. What matters is how much it matters. To tie this tip into the first, meaning and goal go hand in hand, since even in real life, people find meaning in goals. Tip 4, let go of rational thought. Wait. Turn something normal into something extraordinary. Just think about the most normal thing and turn it into something strange. Don't be moderate, because nobody likes the moderate. Think of Terry Pratchett's Discworld, a disc of land floating on a giant turtle sailing through space. That is crazy, radical, unthinkable, for even if you're writing non-fantasy. Shakespeare did this with Romeo and Juliet. The most improbable happened. Past self, let go of your fear of being too radical with your ideas. Right now, grab something ordinary. Something like this. A cup. Imagine a fantasy apocalyptic world in which a giant dropped a cup the size of several mountains onto this world, devastating it. Crazy, interesting. It introduces so many story ideas, from letting go of rational thought. Perhaps scientists accidentally got melted together, or making a romantic comedy. Spider-Man, a guy with the abilities of a spider. Stanley basically did my exercise but grabbed a spider instead. Even Tolkien did it. A skyscraper with a giant red eye on top of it. Let's hope he didn't grab a real eye. Using this trick to generate crazy ideas gives you something original, entirely your own, to play with. None of these tips guarantee success, but this last one guarantees fun, which, to me, is most important. I don't know if you follow that path, my past self, but at least consider it. For some who are more straight-laced, it won't be so easy, but you'll learn and work with it. Have fun, past self, and avoid reading that book, The Wrong Way Out. This is one of my older videos. Unless... Come here.
Yeah?
You sent it to the future instead of the past?
Well, this whole operation was your idea.